Hi everyone. Hi guys. I'm gonna try another one before I get started on a pretty busy week here. Pretty stressful week coming up. Lots of stuff pending, but in honor of continuing to affirm and try to do this video format as either a replacement of or a supplement to the other thing. I'll just vamp some things first thing just after reading some news stuff. Um, um, and yeah, probably a supplement too, because or complement too, because there are a lot of things that are inherently writerly, and a lot of altitudes of the self or the spirit or the lack of self or the lack of spirit, in my case sometimes, that are incompatible with or incommensurate with the spoken word or voice. They're just inherently writerly, and they're things that can be written and not spoken, because spoken somehow misrepresents the character and nature of them and gives some kind of form of false reassurance that is undermined by the content of the words. So there's just there'll just have to be a sifting of appropriate contents for this or whatever. I think the kind of more world referenced or maybe some funny stuff. I don't know what I'll do, but doesn't matter. You don't need to know either. I don't need to know. Okay, just a couple of things this morning. I just looked at the news and briefly, and I guess some things that leapt out at me is just just how we have all basically, like, everyone has become an expert on the least interesting human being in the world. And I guess that's kind of applicable both to the orange, Antichrist, and and Elon Musk, and they're kind of similar in a strange way. And I don't want to give them much mind share. I don't want to give them. I don't want to be guilty of the thing I'm critically observing, or at least aware. I want to be aware of the contradictions and ironies of so doing, because they're kind of inescapable. It's just so intrusive and ubiquitous with the news and everything. Anywhere you look, this just filters through every crack and chasm. But they're kind of similar in a certain way. They're both imperially entitled, empty spirits in a way, a vacuous, all-consuming, needy kind of narcissism that's obviously kind of compensatory or whatever. I mean, like in Trump's, I don't want to be armchair diagnostic about it, but in Trump's case, it's so obviously like he right now, whatever terror he's feeling about the impending indictments is more than psychodynamically compensated for by the fact that he knows it's all about him, and the deep kind of gratification, like gratification that comes from that, from his centrality in that, his attention-craving centrality. So that's kind of vaguely, remotely interesting. And they're kind of similar in this way, that they both are just monsters of need and attention and an imperial self-regard based on nothing except probably a deep sense of inadequacy, whatever that means. And they're different in this regard. They're both kind of stunning morons at some level, that if you just step back and, like, the mess Musk has made out of his Twitter acquisition and the fatuous, embarrassing self-indictments that he parades as complaints, along the lines of, like, whatever, oh, the New York Times, it's in bad faith of them to complain about a subscription payment model when that's their model. Gotcha. My algorithm says that's a clever retort. I don't have any understanding of human nature or psychology, but the algorithm seems to indicate that would be an attention maximizing, click maximizing retort. And I will make good on having lost this fraternity bet that I can take over Twitter and make myself not only the most wealthy man in the world, but the most liked and popular man in the world through an algorithmic mastery of what appeals to people and makes them click things. Just the vapid stupidity. But what's different about Trump and Musk is that Trump has a deep human intelligence. It's an evil one. But it's like an animal human intelligence that he understands the bottomless power and appeal of a certain kind of baseness and appeal to the worst, a manipulation of weakness and the worst. And he can sniff out weakness anywhere, and he can exploit it, and he has bottomless need and bottomless grievance, and it's just existential a priori. His grievance is presupposed by his being, and then he just goes about recreating the circumstances by which it's it's justified or you know what I'm saying. Whereas and he's a stunning Kruger idiot in the sense that he's so stupid at a kind of fundamental level of just basic human intelligence in terms of reason and aggregation of facts, harnessing of argument, consequential thinking, whatever the standard measures of intelligence are. He's truly so stupid that he truly has no idea how stupid he is. And it's not just Dunning-Kruger stupidity, it's stunning Kruger stupidity, because your jaw drops when you contemplate the disconnect, the gaping chasm between his self-estimation and the evidence of his actual abilities or intelligence. And so he's just a limit case of that concept of asymptotic to whatever the final case of Dunning-Kruger would be. So I call it Dunning-Kruger. Yeah, you probably heard that. I mentioned that in the blog sometimes. But in Musk's case, it's different. He's probably like at least average human intelligence, whatever that means. Again, these aren't categories I particularly embrace or put much value in or stock in. But he probably has an above average ability to calculate things or whatever. I don't think he's any kind of mathematical or technical genius. But he has a kind of boyish vision of things, like a sci-fi boyish vision of things, and he's kind of like an entitled, moated Emerald Empire dreamer kid who's been coddled his whole life with a false sense of imperial entitlement and what have you. But he has absolutely no human intelligence, none, like a stunning absence of it, like on the spectrum inability to just gauge what's fatuous and what's absurd and what's not going to. So, like, he has no understanding that it's fatuously self-indicting to compare his takeover of Twitter with the New York Times, when essentially Twitter has the users generating the content for him, and he's scaring them all away with his silly little verification, $8, $5 crisis. I haven't followed it, but it's just obviously he's just soiled the sheets in some attempt to maximize by some algorithm to try to make up all the billions of dollars he's somehow squandered in his impulsive idiocy to prove that he can do this and become the most popular man in the world, the most loved guy in his fraternity, as well as the richest guy who owns the fraternity and the school that it's a part of and the international affiliation of fraternities that it's an expression of. But a moron, fundamentally a moron. And they're morons in different ways, and they're so unexceptional and so uninteresting, except for the voraciousness of their need. And the shamelessness with which they go about creating the illusion of achieving what they aspire to achieve. And they do it by such shamelessly, transparently manipulative means that are gaming the results and are self-deluding at every level. So he manipulates the algorithm to make sure only his tweets get promoted and he gets it, and everyone bows before the naked emperor, blah, 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 blah. And and any normal person that's above this Dunning-Kruger line would be mortified and embarrassed to admit any of that. Like, He doesn't have any. There's just they're both freed by an absence of self-knowledge, conscience, you know, whatever. I can spew on many words about it, but it really doesn't matter. But that comparison, and since they're just so ubiquitous everywhere, and they're just staining the zeitgeist with their toxic neediness and immortal smallness of spirit, immortal. And smallness might be a category error because that suggests the presence of some existence that's measurable, quantifiable. But it's really just like a vacuousness. There's an insubstantiality to said spirit. So anyhow, I'm obviously a walking contradiction in giving this kind of attention to said monsters. But okay, well that's fucking pardon me, that's messed up because it's already 11 minutes that I've rambled. I don't know, maybe I'll just post that up for now, and I'll try to do something else later and supplement some things later. I'm really trying to figure this out on the fly. And I also sorry, I realize I look like I do have the orange shirt under here. I've washed it. I wash things about 7 times a day now since this chemical leak in here. But and with any luck, more later regarding some things that were on my mind. You know, Hegel, a lot of stuff that's supposed to be tonight. The Plato seminar I took part in over the weekend with a lot of people from Chicago, including some University of Chicago graduate students and professors, and it was kind of interesting. Temperamentally strange. The Midwest temperament is so mild-mannered and different that I had to kind of gauge myself, attune myself to that. But Plato's surprisingly good and interesting, and is mistakenly dismissed as like an early teenage understanding people have, like they throw him in the pile of, of things they think they know, but they don't. And maybe say a few words about the Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese thing, the disappointingly lopsided women's NCAA final, which was a great showcase for women's basketball and amazing. Unfortunately, like the American judicial system, hijacked by incompetent or activist referees / judges, so be it, marred by that kind of ugly, racially tinged controversy between the two stars at the end, with this gesture of I guess the white superstar gives that gesture all the time after she makes a big play as an ego boost that's kind of defiantly gestural. And of course, I hate all this posturing. I hate all of it in sports. I hate it. Do your job. Act like you've done it before. Act like it's your job. You're supposed to do it. Stop showboating. Stop dancing in the end zone. It's just an embarrassment, an afflatus of noxious ego everywhere in America. But I guess it sells, and it's a certain kind of animal WWE kind of thing. But anyway, that's her gesture, evidently, is she does this. But she does it generically. She does it to the audience, to the crowd, to existence, to God, to herself, to her spirit. She doesn't do it in the face of her opponent. So it's not interpersonally directed in a specific way. It's a general gesture. And then at the end, when the black star counterpoint to her had 3 seconds before they were going to be dubbed champion, and they were ahead by a huge margin, she tauntingly went up to the white superstar and said, basically, fuck you for aggressing us with your provocation, your gestural provocation. Of course, given the implicit asymmetry of everything, everyone then kind of complained that she, was the black person was being awful, and she probably was. It was unnecessary. It was it was probably tinged with racial resentment about the white star getting all the glory and so forth. In an essentially black game and black climate, but it's just kind of pathetic that it devolves into something so stupid, because yeah, sure, most things have some racial undercurrent. Yeah, yeah, whatever. But at some level, and yeah, it was kind of uncalled for because the first thing wasn't directed to her. It was just my way of saying, yeah, mean mug, I'm going to pose. It's like Steph going with his little chew toy, his little teether. Everyone does their little ridiculous thing. But it's just it's a sad thing about the escalation of aggression and bad karma and bad vibes. At some level, I kind of believe it's all categorically bad. All the gesturing, all the triumphalist taunting and gesturing in every sport now, which has kind of ruined what was once kind of nice about sport. But that I'm willing to just say screw it. Let the girls be girls. Let them fight like guys do. On my basketball game back in the day, people would just kind of taunt each other a little bit, like afterward, like yeah. Hi, my name is so and so. Hi, my name is so and so. Oh, did you like that? Yeah, like whatever. And I'd have the big guy that I would guard who'd just turn to me all the time and go, you're too small, fucker. You can't stop me after he'd score a basket. And he was like a foot taller than me. And I go, yeah, congratulations. And then whenever I would get past him, I'd say, but you can't stop me. But those were just kind of, they're kind of playful, provocative pleasantries, and I hate them all. I'll just respond to them. I would never initiate something. So long story short, babbling is going to be an endless video. It's going to be the end of the experiment before it begins, but that's okay. But so if those things exist in sport already, I'm kind of the mind like, yeah, let them do it. Let the girls be like guys, taunt each other. That's fine. Like that's kind of empowering in the stupid discourse of empowerment that's already been tainted and stained. I would prefer a world in which that didn't exist, but that's probably not going to happen unless it's modeled repeatedly by the players. And anyhow, that's what I would tend to think, and I would think let's get past it and stop, racializing everything and stop whatever. Nothing interesting here, but I love both players. I love seeing the women play really, really well, and something I do really like about the women's game is that it still has some of the fundamental below the rim beauty that's based on designed plays and back cuts and effectively run pick and rolls and pick and pops. Somehow it being a little bit slower and a little bit smaller opens up some of the spaces within which those things are now geometrically possible, like they were earlier in the NBA among men. But people have gotten too big and too athletic for the game in a certain way that the geometry has shifted, and now you kind of have to pull up from 35 feet to get an open shot, and even that is now contested. So and somehow they know, whatever. See, this is going to be a disaster because if I start talking, I'll just keep talking. It's like some kind of universal law. So I'm going to shut up and post this, and we'll see where we go from there. Happy Monday. Thank you. Apologies. Whatever. I don't know. Enough. Shut up, Teddy. Just shut up.